Welcome to Football Geeks podcast. I'm Phil Harrison, and tonight I'll be sharing hosting duties with my great pal, founder, writer and editor of the essential Celtic fanzine, the Shamrock, the wonderful Paul McQuade. Hello, Paul. How are you?
Evening, Phil. I'm very well, thank you.
Good. And the reason why Paul's presence is so vital to us tonight is because our guest on the show, in his 4 years with the boys, attained the revered status of cult hero amongst the Celtic faithful during arguably the most troubled era in the club's illustrious history. His life, or lives, as we will explore in the show, have been a model of juxtaposition, born as he was into a brutal dictatorship in the South European enclave of Stalinist Albania in 1969. He eventually escaped the shackles of communism in 1991, seeking asylum in France. So it's a story of dual parts, Albania and beyond, with myself chairing part one and Paul taking stewardship of part two. And it's this two life element of the guest story that's explored in an outstanding, fresh off the press autobiography, co-written with Celtic scribe Gerry McDade, who also joins us on the show. It's a privilege and a pleasure to welcome both Gerry McDade and Rudi Vata. Hello, boys.
Hi, guys. Very good evening, guys.
Well, can I just say,
introduction? It's lovely.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here. It really is. And congratulations on what is an absolutely terrific book. Gerry's got it in his hand there. It's just over there. It's right behind me. I can't reach it. But it's absolutely fantastic. And Paul and I were both riveted by Rudi's story. It's a fantastic read, Rudi. Great stories, mate. Love the book. So we'll move on. We'll move on to the questions that we have in front of us. So firstly, fellas, could you walk us through the genesis of the book? What prompted its writing? Rudi, do you want to go first on that one?
Well, to be honest, I never thought I'm going to write a book, but the way my life kind of developed and the way I changed during my not just my football career, but also as a human being, as a persona, I think it came to a point that people were asking me why you don't write a book. And I had few meetings with few people, and I was never sure that the person that I had to meet was the right person. I got an instinct that was telling me it's not right, and then eventually somehow I get a phone call and we meet up with Gerry, and we had a cup of coffee together, and I just say to Gerry, yes, I am going to go ahead and write the book with you. Gerry was trying to convince me that he wrote the book of Paki Bonner and the book of Jarky McNamara before, but I didn't need that. I felt something right with Gerry, and my instinct was good. Gerry was very straight and explaining in a very simple way. And that's how it all started, to be honest. Having a coffee here and a coffee there, a croissant here and a croissant somewhere else. And when it came closer to 70-something thousand words, that's when Gerry says we are coming towards the final final hurdle, and that's it. So
yeah. So Gerry, how were you prompted into this co kind of project?
To be honest, Phil, it was a phone call from a very good friend of mine, who I'm fairly sure John's one of the leading lights in the Celtic Superstore. Paul, you'll have seen John Craig any other time you've been in. John's a good friend of mine. I worked at Celtic for a couple of years full time, and I got to know him really, really well. And he literally phoned me up one day and said, Rudi has been in, Rudi Vata with his wife, and they want to write a book, but they said, we don't know who we can get to write it. And John just basically said, look, I know a guy, So John phoned me up and said, would you be interested? And well, I'm always interested, And then, I knew Rudi. I'd seen his career. I had an idea of what his career was about. And then I did a wee bit of background research, and I read some articles from online stuff, and I started to think, right, I really want to do this. And then I met him, and within 10 minutes of meeting Rudi in the coffee shop, I thought, no, I really want to do this book, because he's not just the great story that he has, but I knew he had a way of telling his story. That we talked about things. I think the very, very first thing we talked about, and we put that in, it's the first thing in the book, the prologue, sorry, is, you know, him and his father, Peter, you know, walking across the shore at the sea and talking about his father, talking about storms. And I thought, oh no, this is different. Because that's all I've ever really wanted. I want to write different books, you know, that it's not just about the football, it's not just about the games. You know, the books that I have done previously that Rudi mentioned with Packy and Jackie were all, you know, a lot of that was about trophies and titles and big seasons and all this sort of stuff. But you also want to get into their head as well. But Rudi's story was completely different, and it just hooked me right away. And you know, I'm delighted that he said he felt that connection with me, because that's exactly what I felt. And I came away from that meeting thinking, if I don't get this book, I'll be really disappointed, because I like this guy and I really like his story, and he's buying into the way I want to tell his story as well.
Yeah. Well, when we spoke on the phone, Gerry, we talked. I mean, the book is there's so much pathos and so much, you know, it's a really personal story. Well, I'm sure we'll come back to that later on in the show. But Rudi, you were born in Skodra in northern Albania, when the barbaric rule of the dictator Enver Hoxha was at its height. Can you tell us, give us some idea of what childhood was like at that time in Albania?
Look, to be honest, as a child, you don't understand the difference. You know, you're born in that environment, and obviously you go and you learn the ABC, and first day of your school, you're happy as any child would be, you know, and you don't understand what the difference, what you're supposed to be in a different country or that. But anyway, I feel that when you start and become an adult and you understand the difference between freedom and tyranny or dictatorship, then you understand this is something not right. So it cannot be described, because it's something that nothing, it's according to humans' freedom, there was never freedom. Not freedom of speech, freedom of your opinion, freedom of choice, freedom of making a move. So everything was paralyzed. You were living in a circuit that you are not supposed to get out of this circuit, because this is the way the dictator has decided, and people are more or less were brainwashed. We were taught to believe that we were the best country in world. We were taught to believe that all the superpowers, they are so jealous about our country. America and in Europe, they love a piece of Albania, but they cannot have it. It's difficult to explain it. When you live in it, and more you live and more you understand life, more kind of frustrated it becomes. Because I was lucky enough to understand the difference, because I had to go from early age with the underage group of Albania, under 15, under 17s, in countries like Holland, like Hungary, and like Greece. And I started to notice the difference straight away. And as soon as you cross that border and you enter to another border, you see that the changes are massive. So
yeah, I suppose, I mean, being a footballer gave you a portal into that outside world, didn't it? So I suppose once you see it can't remain unseen, can it? It's always there with you. So talking about your beginnings in football, how did, I mean, evidently it starts on the streets, doesn't it? But how did you get into football?
Well, Škoda is the place where football was born, more or less, in Albania. It was the first city where football was played. So, and Škoda had so many superstars of Albania of the past that we had our role models, because most of the Škoda football players, they became national team players of the country, and they were kind of like gods, because everybody wanted to have a piece of those people. And obviously in my area where I was born, there were two legends of the national team, Loro Borici and Ramazan Ragami. My house was in a distance of 50 meters from each of those two guys. And obviously, as soon as you are born in that area, that everything is football. So the streets were more or less, everything was on the soil, and we used to have a plastic ball and go out in the streets and play football every day, because that's the only game we could play, and that's the only place we had freedom, because at the time in those streets was no cars, because nobody was allowed to own a car in the country. The streets were kind of empty, and as young children you start the competition. I believe starts from early age. As soon as before you start and walk, you crawl, and then you start and walk, you start and run and start and coordinate your movement. And that's where it started. Gerry's been in my street where I was born, and my street is not wider than 3 meters. And that's where I started to play football, using the walls as a player, say playing 1v1 or 2v2 in the small streets. And what's the only thing that give me the joy and happiness. And from early age, I started to kind of feel like I am superior towards my friends, and I felt like I was something different, and everybody wanted to have me in the team. So that's how it started in my street, and then ended going to the bigger streets, and then the competition ends up in your hometown, the best team of the town, and then goes into the national level. So I followed the whole street, went through those group ages, and I became a man from early age, because I always wanted to play against older boys, and I was too good against my group age boys. So I always was playing against 3 or 4 years older boys, and playing with them when I was 15, playing for 18s. It makes me, I felt like I became a man too early in life, and I make my debut as 18 years old, and I was always in the first 11 from the 18 years old. So I became a man far too early, I think, and that was the main kind of secret of my footballing career, because you got to become early. If you have to enter into that category of big guys, you have to become a man from early age. I know nowadays they say the young man 18, 19 and is not getting a game, but me, I played in first team of Lasnia, 18 years old, went to Dinamo, and I was always a very important member of the team. And always, I believe, I worked so hard to become undisputable, because that's the only way you can enjoy your game. And I really enjoyed, because I grown up through that kind of mentality, and that is that 5P rule in life. The proper preparation prevents poor performance. So in everything, I always was prepared much better than everybody else. So I always try to keep my level of performance high. and that's how I kind of ended up becoming a professional football player eventually, after a proper professional football player. So
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you know,
I would also say, Rudy, that a critical point of your development that we obviously cover in the book was that, you know, you left Skoda at 14 and went through to Tirana, to the capital city, to the absolute bastion of communism. It's the capital of the country, and that's where it was. And I mean, you've used the word yourself, my friend. You know, you effectively said you were an orphan.
yeah,
You're an
I was
orphan.
an orphan because I was 14 years old.
Yeah.
A distance from Tirana and Skoda was 3.5 hours by train, you know. And obviously, I ended up in a place with 120 boys from all over the country, in an environment that, if I explain to you, you don't even imagine let that kind of environment exists. You know, in an old kind of army building, we were sleeping 22 people in one room, and we had no electricity, we had not heating, we had no hot water. But as I said, you have to become a man, and tough times build up the strong man in life. And that's, I am glad I had to go through those tough periods, because that's what made me tough. Because I never complained about these facilities. I wanted to become a football player. I wanted to reach my goal to become a national team player. So I had to go through any kind of situation that would appear, and that's a way I think you succeed if you don't if you don't complain about things, and if you accept what is there for the moment, and do your best. That's what keeps you going, and that's where how you keep developing. Of course you'll miss your family, of course you'll miss your friends, of course you'll miss your beds and your house and everything, but I love football so much, and I in a way I think I love football more than anything else in my life, you know, because I tell people I maybe loved football more than I loved my mom and dad, because I love I left my family for the love of football.
Yeah, but I think that's
And
a story. That's a story of every 14-year-old. I think you're at your sweet spot of enjoying football when you're around 14. It never gets really any better. But you were fortunate when you moved from Skodra to Tirana, because there were some great mentors there. You speak in the book of Veria.
I believe your destiny is written. I now when I think about my life, I think God has chosen me to go through that journey. And then in Aurel Veria, he was like second father to me. And maybe if I had to have another coach who would not have the same kind of passion about helping me and giving me the proper advice, and kind of treating me with care, maybe I would have never made it, you know. But again, this is the way things went. I was so passionate. I had so much love for the game, and I was and then I ended up having a coach that kept me right, and he kind of gave me the kind of education, not just as a football player, but even as a human being. He helped me a lot to become a good person.
Yeah, and there was the Skodra connection there, because Ramazan Ragami and Oral Veria, they were part of the Spressa team, weren't they, of the early 80s, the ones that the under-21 team that kind of nearly went all the way in the European Championships, but for a defeat to Italy. So
Yes.
he was
Yeah.
evidently a fantastic coach. I can only surmise how good he was, but he's certainly
To be honest, I remember him. He was having the kidney problems, and we were in a football pitch was no grass, and he could have quite easy say that, make a complaint and say that I'm going to see a doctor. But he was, with the pain, you could feel that he was coaching us, and his body was curving over to try and feel more comfortable. But even in those situations, he gave us his energy, and you could see that the guy is giving us its all. So we have to take it, because was a special moments like this that can motivate you when you want to repay them. You want to pay those people back, because they put the trust on you, they believe in you, and they put their time on, and at the end of the day was for my best, was for my future, you know. But again, it's important also in those moments to have someone who really cares about his boys, who's responsible of taking care of, because he was a father himself. And now I understand myself that being a father, you have different responsibilities, and if you have to take care of the children from different backgrounds, you have to treat them as their father. It's the only way to help young boys. So I was lucky to have that, to be honest. I was lucky, and I thank God for giving me that kind of pathway, and giving me the opportunity to work with the right people in the right time.
Yeah, buddy, that strength of faith it pervades throughout the book. It's you know, it's a lovely lovely to hold on to that faith. So tell us about those Dynamo years. You were at Dynamo, and how did that lead to your subsequent defection to the West in 1991?
Well, Dynamo, after I finished the football school in Tirana in 1987, obviously I had to go. I applied to go to the University of Sports, because at the time the only thing we could have a future in life was to have a profession. So more or less, we could not think or could not imagine that one day Albania will be a country that the people can leave the country and can think to go in another foreign country and build their future. So the maximum we could imagine is that I can become a national team player, and that was my main goal, more or less. I could not plan or make have a dream to play for a team outside the territory of the country. So my parents always advised me to go to the university. So the best way for me to fulfill my kind of my parents' dream as well was to get a diploma, to get a degree. So I went and I gone through the tests, and I had to go through all the criteria you needed to fill to pass to go to University of Sports. So I was qualified to go to University of Sports. So that's how I joined Tirana, Dinamo Tirana. But in the meantime, Dinamo Tirana had already scouted me in a game against Holland for under 18s in European Championship. We played in March or April 1987. Was the first time I was playing as a libero at the time, because we were playing with two center backs and a libero. And Ramazan Ragami, he switched me from being a striker. He switched me to play as a sweeper. First time in my footballing career, he told me that, I remember I was very unhappy because I was the best goal scorer of under 18s of my country. And he switched me as a sweeper against Holland. The Holland was coming to play Albania with all the stars of Ajax Amsterdam. And he said, "You're going to play as a sweeper?" And I said, "How can I play a sweeper?" I said, "Because in my life, I always played as a center forward, and I am the best goal scorer in the country." He said, "Just think what kind of moves you made as a striker. They reverse that, he says, and you cover up those areas the strikers move, so you make the cover. So and then I used my head, and we ended up nothing each, and I played very well. But in the meantime, Dinamo Tirana's captain, and at the time was the captain of national team, Mujo Targaj, he was retiring that season. So, and Dinamo was looking for a sweeper, and obviously the director of Dinamo was in the stadium during that game, and they saw me, and they just made the decision. We found the replacement of Targaj, and then Dinamo also insisted and helped me a lot to go to University of Sports, because to go to University of Sport you needed to have a criteria. Your marks, there had to be a certain mark in Albania, was from 4 was the best. You pass your marks. So, but to go to the University of Sports or any university, the history of Communist Party, you need to have the 8 mark, and I was only a 5.
Yeah.
Because I never liked the history of Communist Party. I always felt there's this lies in it, and
there is no history. It is just the Communist Party. There is no history other than the communists.
Anyway, you needed to have that. So, but Dinamo hard to change that criteria, and for me, being under 21 of Albania, they changed that criteria. They say that the national team players, they are kind of excluded from this criteria, and I ended up in the University of Sport and playing for Dinamo Tirana. So
but if you don't mind me saying, Rudi, you know, if you look at that from as I kind of went from university to play for Dinamo Tirana, which is brilliant. But there's a massively big background story there that I won't give away because it's in the book. But you know, it boiled down to the fact that Rudi was a brilliant footballer at his age and worked really, really hard and was going to come in to replace your man. But this is Albania in 1987. It all comes down to 2 things. One, the politics. Dinamo Tirana is the football club of the Ministry of the Interior. You know, Partizan Tirana is the army. So it's a political thing. And Rudi's decision to go to Dinamo Tirana became based on the security of a single signature on a piece of paper from a fella called Hikun Isai, Rudi, who was the Minister of the Interior, and that guaranteed, you know, Rudi's family's life and his life, because they wanted. So that all came about because your man wanted him to play for the club, and he was willing to sign a piece of paper to say, "Listen, this is a good guy. There's no problem here." And that is real power, you know.
Yeah. Holding someone's life in the palm of their hands that way, it is an expression.
Before I went to Dinamo Tirana, law in Albania was strange, and today still I don't understand how come that would be happening, you know, because if you were born in Shkodra, you'd live in Shkodra for the rest of your life. You're not allowed to move to Tirana unless the Communist Party kind of provide with a job for you. By your choice, you're not allowed. Here we go now. I want to move to Tirana or to another city and settle in there and build up a life there. You are not allowed. That was like you're moving from one country to another. So everybody's territory was based on the job they get in. That's where you stay, and we control you, and you're not allowed unless you go in to see the museum of Tirana for your holidays or whatever. So when I went to Shkodra after the first 4 years in football school of Loro Borici, I had to go and train and play for Vlasnia, from my hometown. And Vlasnia at the time was playing in Cup Winners' Cup, because they were the winners of the Cup in 1987, and they were playing in Cup Winners' Cup. So I went. I followed the rules. I had to show in the training there until September, because from June until September the schools were closed in Albania. That was also a strange situation. So I joined Vlasnia in June, and I had to leave Vlasnia 1st of September, because that's when the university and the school started. So, but during these 3 months, I had to be there, and Vlasnia people, they were desperate to keep me in Shkodër, because I was very important player, and they wanted to keep me, but not give me a possibility to get educated, to have a degree. So, and they were very jealous and angry because I made that decision to go to Dinamo in September. So what did they do during this period of time? We went to Malta to play in Cup Winners' Cup. We won the first game in Shkodër 2-0. We went to Malta, we won 4-0. And after we came back from Malta, I was accused, and they made some stories, and they created a situation that they say that I was going to escape, to run away next game. So we got qualified, and we were going to play in Finland the next game. So what's happened? They created a situation without any background. They just out of the team the day of the traveling, and when they came back, obviously my family and I, we were in a situation. We had so many anonymous letters. That's we used to do, the people's accusing my father as a Yugoslav agent, because my father, he was married to a daughter of a Yugoslav woman, and they were accusing my father for being an agent of Yugoslav of the Yugoslavs, and also they accused me for trying to escape and become a traitor, and more or less they called me a traitor, and that's how Hekuranisai, the interior minister, took the case, and he kind of controlled everything. But for the people of the communist people of Shkodër, my family and I could have quite easily ended up in some mountains, in some cages somewhere, and never seen the sunlight again. But luckily, the minister, the interior minister, who obviously controlled the security of the country, he called me and my father. He showed us the amount of anonymous letters that were written against my family, and he says, with this kind of documents, the only thing I'm supposed to do, he says, is to take your family and send them up north somewhere with the bears, more or less.
Yeah, it's terrifying. It's guilt by insinuation, really.
And I was only 18 years old. And my father was very honest guy, and he kind of felt like, how can I be an agent? How can I give information? Where did I get those information from? But at the time, with two witnesses, fake witnesses, they would put you to prison in Albania. So they had the witnesses ready, and the witnesses will come to the court and say, yes, I've seen you going, and they will make fake documents, and they will put you away easy. That was easy. So, but anyway, I was lucky. I promised him at the time, because Dinamo was going to play in a Balkan Cup in Turkey, and we had to travel through Greece to go to Turkey. He promised me, he asked me that to give him the kind of shake the hand of honor and say that I'm coming back. And I promised him, first of all, I say that I never ever imagined that I could leave my family, because I know how much damage I would cause to Lemises, and I am not going to leave the country, I says, because the situation is, it's quite simple. I love my mom and dad, and that's what's happened. I was allowed to go with Dinamo, and then I came back. I came back from the Turkey game, and obviously I established myself. I became kind of a person that I could be trusted again in being in Dinamo. So,
which is an interesting thing, because you talk about the power of Hekarin Asai, that he's got the power in one signature on a piece of paper to create a situation for Rudi and his family. He can send them here or he can send them there, but he wants Rudi to play for Dinamo Tirana, right? But at the same time, he's vulnerable as well, because he's now coming to Rudi and saying, look, you know, you need to stay, because if you go away to this Balkan Cup thing and you don't come back,
I'll be in that cage.
I'm getting done. I'm getting done. So is he powerful or is he not powerful? And when Rudy's telling me these things, guys, you know, you're thinking, I've never heard anything like this before. I've never written anything like this before.
I mean, it's all down to timescale as well. I mean, back then, a bad bio, it didn't just hurt you; it hurt everybody who knew you. So you were. It was ruination, really.
Yeah.
But you survived that era, and you won the league title with Dynamo in 89-90, was it? And there's a story about Pierre Noga. He defected in 1990 in Marseille. Did that have any prompt on your decision to defect?
But well, my decision was made last minute, I believe, in France, because my decision before I went to France, we were facing France, Albania, and before we traveled to France, I went to see my parents. That was maybe a couple of weeks before traveling to Paris. And when I went home, I saw that my parents, both of them, they looked sad and they looked tired, and they looked the atmosphere was not good, and I could see that the energy levels were not there. And I says, what's going on? And they says that Alex, my brother, had taken a taxi and had gone to the nearest port from Skoda, but he had never kind of sent a message or informed the family in a way that he's okay and he's alive. At the time, what was happening in Albania, many people were going towards the ports, and they were taking the boats, and they were taking the fish boats, anything just to try and escape. They used to make a pact with the soldiers. The soldiers, they were telling the soldiers, you are our brothers, you cannot shoot us, and so, and the soldiers gave in. But anyway, my brother had no informed the family for more than 2 weeks, and I had in my mind, I believe that was the right moment for me, because you could feel the movement. Albania was the last communist country that collapsed in that communist bloc. So we could hear the stories of Berlin Wall and Ceausescu getting killed, but you could feel that that thing is coming. But question was how long it will take, and when is going to come, and his people are going to be killed, or what's going to happen, because was a strange atmosphere, and everybody had that feeling that anything can explode for one moment to another. So, and I promised my parents that, listen, they asked me, please don't leave us, because if we lost one son, we don't want to lose the other one, and we cannot afford to lose another one. And in my head was that, okay, I'm coming back. I'm not going to leave you. But what's happened 2 weeks after, we traveled to Paris, and in Paris, in our hotel hall. We meet up with some Albanian refugees, and one of them come to see me, and that's where I found out that the brother of this guy was in the same place as my brother in Italy. And eventually I spoke to my brother through the telephone, and that's when I made my plan. I was happy that my brother is alive, and then I had to plan my journey. I had to write a letter, one of those hot cards that you used to be in the hotel with an envelope. I wrote a nice piece of paper, a letter of my mom and dad, explaining to them my reasons for me staying there, and hopefully they could understand that this was the right time. And obviously I had to promise them that we'll be together soon. And I told them that Alex, my brother, is fine, is healthy, is good, so you don't have to worry about that. And I gave the letter to one of my teammates who was going back home, and he promised me that he will deliver the letter, and that's it. That's when I built up the plan to stay in France last minute, more or less.
Yeah, I mean, in Albania, familial ties weren't as great because it was a product of what the regime had kind of implemented, really. So there wasn't that connection because everybody was suspicious of everyone else. But anyway, you fled that night, didn't you? In Paris, you left the stadium and you made your way to the refugee camp. And on leaving Albania, you were confronted by many challenges. And so how did the Western world receive you on arrival in it?
Well, you listen, as a young man, without having that experience, all you have is your tools, and your heart, more or less. And then you need to use the brain, because the brain is everything starts from here. And you can imagine lots of things, and the fear is there, but the fear can also motivate you, not just hurt you. And I was scared but strong. I had $50 in my pocket, and I see that I was nobody in France. I was a refugee in a refugee level because I had nothing. $50 in my pocket. And when you think that you are playing against Papin, against Cantona, against Franck Souzel, Laurent Blanc, you are playing there, you feel great because obviously there you are equal, those guys, And then 48 hours after, wake up in a refugee camp, and you are equal with those people. So it's like in a matter of 48 hours, you live two kind of different lives, because
I still get goosebumps when he tells us. I still get goosebumps when he tells us.
Yeah.
So now you need to understand that you have to be in that position. I had the jersey of Cantona, and I was waiting for my food in a refugee camp 48 hours after. So, but this is life. This is how I believe the big man tests you, and for me was a journey. Now I believe all the time that I always say that life is a war, and of course there will be battles you lose, there will be battles you win, and the most important thing is to win the war, but battles, everybody will lose battles. So
yeah.
So
sorry, Rudi, do continue.
No, but and then you start and learn and start and improve. You have to become part of a society that reacts completely different. First thing you have to do is to learn the language. Because if you want to understand things, you have to communicate. Communication is very important. and people, they will understand who you are soon as you open your mouth. They will see you're okay, you look like a sportsman, but then they will understand what you have in your head. And this is very important to send a message, to give them, to let them know what your thoughts are, to let them know what your ambition is, to let them know not just by the words, but also by showing them, because you want to be accepted in that society. You have to live like them, you have to walk like them, you have to eat like them, you have to. So more or less there's a challenge, and every challenge, again, but you are born through those situations, and those situations is the situation that builds up your future. So more or less I felt that having the freedom first was the most important thing, and then the freedom will bring this opportunity, and the opportunity will build your future, but you have to take that opportunity. You are not supposed to think, oh, I'm having another opportunity, I'm going to have a glass of whiskey or a bottle of whiskey with my friends there and have some fun and go for a party here, and because the opportunity is waiting for me. Opportunity don't wait, you know. So so I wanted to become a football player. I didn't want to become a gangster, you know, because it's easier to become a gangster. To become a professional football player, it's so tough, it's so hard, you know, it's so hard. But you understand that eventually, after all those situations you go through, you challenge them, you get hit, you get punched, you get up again, and you're almost knackered and still don't give in. Eventually, one day brings you to a situation you never imagined that could happen, you know. So if I tell you what I had to go through in France, if I tell you that I was refused to get that privilege of becoming a political asylum, because I was quoted or as a well-treated and not persecuted person in my country, so I didn't fill that criteria. So, and in the same time, I had no the green light from Dinamo Tirana, because obviously I was registered with a club there, and I was a player of Dinamo Tirana, but the club in France didn't have the $100,000 to pay for my compensation. And then I had first day on trial, I broke my ankle and I had no insurance, and I teared my ligaments, and everything goes from bad to worse. And again, you have to think, you have to react, you have to face those difficulties, and you have to make to believe. It's all about believing. I had a friend who helped me a lot in France, Jean-René Belliard. He was my sponsor, who took care of my broken leg with his private doctor and everything. And he could see that I was frustrated and I was desperate to have some good news about things. And the only word he was saying to me often is, he couldn't not tell me anything else because obviously he didn't have any, but he was telling me in French, il faut croire, Rudi, il faut croire, which means that you have to believe, kind of, you must keep believing. And that's what I've done. I built up that mentality to keep believing, keep believing, keep believing. So, and eventually the sunshine kind of appeared after that storm that we are talking, that me and Gerry, I explained to Gerry that my dad used to explain to me. The storm get tired as well. And
that was a truly beautiful analogy, that was, and I have to say that when I read it, I became kind of a little bit emotional reading that. It was so profound and so lovely. However, I mean, it was a kind of this signaled the kind of rebirth, the second life, really, those 2 years in France. So I mean, at this point, I'm going to pass the driving seat over to Paul So he's at the steering wheel now. So I'll pass you on to my pal, Paul McQuade.
Thank you, Phil. Rudi, we're roughly the same age. I'm about a year younger than you. And it was quite a sensation for Celtic to sign an Albanian player back in the early 90s. We didn't know much about Albania. We knew nothing really about Albanian football other than the fact Celtic had played there about 13 years before.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that we did know was that Albania had as many people who watched football per head per population as Scotland, and they were the two highest in the world. So we kind of understood that Albania was football crazy in the same way that Scotland was. How did you find it when you were actually playing football here in front of the fans? Was there a comparison?
Was completely different, to be honest, because Scotland, to me, again, after France, which I felt that I am settled in now, I got to a situation that I was just trying to put the next gear and to accelerate further up, and the situation appeared to go to Scotland. So when you come to Scotland, see that the you drive in the other side of the road, the plug is different, the weather is different,
The weather's really different.
and the food is different, and you have to adjust now to another lifestyle. Again, in the middle of Glasgow, Albany Hotel, on my own, and you have to face the Scottish people, and when they approach you with their kind of love and charisma and care and the way they want to have, because soon as I signed for Celtic, I realized that everybody knew me, and I could not understand how come they know me. because those people, they hardly see me, but they've seen my face in the newspaper, obviously, and I didn't know that people are so crazy about football players like they were in Scotland. And I don't think there is any other country in there that the fans are so crazy about the players. So that was a shock for me, because even in my country, I could feel that the fans, they kind of, they are not so passionate. The only sport in Albania, the main sport was football. But we didn't have that tradition. You buy a jersey, because first of all, you could not even buy a jersey. And we didn't get educated in this way. But you could see that in Scotland, that even if you are the poorest guy in the country, you still find the money to go and buy the next jersey. But what made the difference for me here was the people, and the club was very, very special as well, because the history, I started to learn about the history and the tradition and everything. For me was a life-changing experience again. I had to get to adapt to everything again here with the pace of the game but again, I was alone. I was completely alone. I could not even phone my family, because still, we didn't have a phone in the house. The country was going through crisis, and everything was going from bad to worse. But I was developing. I was growing up. I was having the possibility to play with some top players, some top internationals. I was learning from them. And I was more or less blessed to have that opportunity at that time. For me, that opportunity helped me to become a much, much wiser and stronger and again, better human being, because I felt that warmth of the people and the caring and everything. So I got to understand that life is so beautiful when you go through those moments, and for me, Scottish people, for me, are the nicest people I experience, and that's the reason I choose to come back here and stay and and because I still feel so emotional about the place, and it's about some kind of love connection as well. I played with so many clubs and I played in so many different countries, but here was that soft spot. I felt kind of good, and that's what keeps me connected with Scotland.
And you also found a Scottish wife as well.
Well, and then life progresses. Then becomes the wife, and then everything became natural. The boys were born here, and the family was. And I became a dad, and obviously, again, you would understand that the responsibilities change. You become now responsible. You are the creator, and you are the founder of the family, and you are responsible to maintain those balances. And it's a war again, and the war, it's no finishing here yet, because we have more challenges ahead, and we still have lots of different things to face, but we face them with dignity and heart.
One of the parts of the book I really enjoyed was when you were saying, so you're away from home, and as difficult as that is, it's also proper freedom for you, and it's your opportunity to remind yourself of one of your early football heroes. So you adopt a hairstyle of Rudi, the famous Dutch player. So I'm just wondering, how did that go down, and the whole experience of you finding yourself in the Celtic dressing room in that particular era?
For me, to be honest, I was living in Furlongs in Hamilton, and was 20 minutes. I could not wait to wake up early in the morning to go to that dressing room. For some reason, that was some energy that, for me, I was fueled, completely energized, and I felt like I was really going to paradise every morning. And every morning you could see that from the front man and from the secretary, everybody, you could see that energy, and that was something I needed badly at the time. I needed to have the people saying good morning to you, Rudi. How are you, Rudi, this morning? You feeling good today? And that energy, that kept me going and kept me feeling like, oh my God, this is something that I really kind of am enjoying here, and it's something that it's helping me a lot in many ways. I'm not talking about the financial terms, because, to be honest, that at that time I was not even interested to think what, but that energy, that journey, that experience was so vital for me. And I had some very, very good moments, some tough moments, but again, that's life, and you have to still be there and be counted. And every time I was called up, I was standing up and obviously doing what I could do best. And I got that connection with the fans, and got connection with the people. And again, is that energy that people need, and I found that energy in Celtic Park, the most vital energy that I needed at the time. And I'm very glad I had that I made that choice, because I had the opportunity to stay in France, and was much easier and much more comfortable for me to stay in France at the time, because I learned French language very fast, and I liked this lifestyle. But when Celtic appeared, then I say, no way, in a million years you don't get this opportunity. So, and when you look at the things now, since 1992, I am the only Albanian player who played for Celtic,
That's
and
right.
I don't know when is going to be the next one. I'm not sure, because it's not easy to play for Celtic. It's not easy to wear the jersey, So I am very proud for achieving what I did, Of course, I was not the best player, but based on the commitment, I don't think anybody else was more committed than me, So I done my 100%, not just in the game, but even training session. Every day I was more than 100%. So committed, fully committed to the club, to the jersey, to the fans, to the history. So was the vital crucial period of my life, because that fundamental thing that I built up in Celtic helped me for the rest of my life, and I am the person who I am now because of those 4 seasons at Celtic Park.
I think the thing is as well, Paul, that you and I, we were aware of Rudi coming to Celtic through Liam Brady. Liam Brady had signed him; he was the first Albanian to sign for Celtic, etc., etc., etc. But it was only really through sitting down with Rudi and going through his story that you realised that we all thought Liam Brady saw Rudi, wanted to buy him, brought him over, end of. Right? It didn't happen like that. What actually happened was he saw Rudi in the match against the Republic of Ireland. He was the man in the match. He had a brilliant game, and he said to the Albanian authorities, "That guy could do a job for me. I'd like to bring him in." But of course, although Albania was going through the democratic changes, there were still forces within the Football Association that were like, well, we're not going to tell him. So Rudi only found out weeks later when he was getting some work done by a physio for the national squad. And the physiotherapist said to him, whatever happened to that Celtic connection? And Rudi looked at him and said, what Celtic connection? Because the Albanian FA had decided not to tell Rudi that Celtic were interested in him. And it's only when he found out through this physiotherapist that he was to go back to Jean René, as he mentioned, in France, and said, what do we do about this? And Jean René said, well, I'll make a phone call. And the fact that the girl at the other end of the phone in Celtic Park could talk French, and that Rudi was able to talk Italian to Liam Brady, who was fluent in Italian as well. That you and I think, Paul, that he signed for Celtic and the rest is history. But even that route to Celtic had the Albanian FA's tentacles all over it to say, no, it's not happening. And to me, it was a political thing, and it was a jealousy thing as well. They didn't want him to have that.
But in the Albanian FA, there were the same communists who were communists and then converted to Democrats. So, but deep inside, they were communists. They didn't like me. They were jealous, obviously, because Celtic was a big, massive club. And for them, for an Albanian, for them, that Rudi Vata from Škoda, a Christian, to join a Catholic club, that was like disaster in their kind of head, But as I say, God, he creates those situations. That physiotherapist, he was the nicest man in earth, and he was taking care of my ankle before the game against Lithuania for more than a week, and that's out of nowhere. He brought up this situation. He says, because Liam Brady was well recognized in Albania, and because he played in Italy, and we could hear in a legal way the radio and the Serie A teams, and Liam Brady was a star. And when he says, "Did you speak to Liam?" he says, and what's happening with Celtic? I thought, what do you mean? Because I don't know. And that was 2-3 weeks after we had played Ireland, So, but anyway, that's, people cannot stop you. What is meant to be for you, it will always be. People will be jealous, because jealousy is a disease that nobody found a medicament to fix it. So most important thing is what happened was, for me, the best thing at the time. And what can you say more about the history and about Celtic and about everything? So more or less I described everything in the book. Every day I woke up was a privilege to be training at Celtic Park, to be trained at Celtic and train at Barrafield.
Yeah. A place in itself. But your challenges are there. It's not easy for you, because if you'd gone to England, it presumably would have been a bit easier. But instead, you're now having to converse with Peter Grant, Frank Connor.
Oh,
tell us about the What was the Rudi method? How did you get to grips with these guys?
Well, Frank Corner, I spent a lot of time. He was a fantastic guy, you know. And when we used to do the pre-season, I used to come for pre-season. I used to come all the time, very fit, and he used to tell me all the time, "Oh, this body of yours, don't give it to any woman. Give it to football. Give it to football." He said, you know, that engine of yours, don't lose it. So he was trying to advise me in his ways, but was a character, you know. And those characters, that's what I mean. That people like Peter Grant, like Joe Miller, like Charlie Nicholas, you know, they were all the funny guys in the dressing room. They always created this atmosphere that there was always a joke, it was always a laugh, you know. And then you have the likes of Paul McStayes, who behaves like a leader. He walked like a leader, and he lives like a leader. So you got all the characters, you know. And eventually you start and get the foreign import, because Pierre Van Hooydonk come, Andy Tom come, and then come George Cadet, and so. So it becomes a much more multicultural environment, because first when I arrived was mostly, that was very important to understand the history of football club, was because those people could tell you, and those people was so they could express you the feelings, the way they prepared themselves, especially when they played Glasgow Rangers. You understand that Scottish, those two clubs here, they are fighting like life and death. That was more like the day of the game. That's how the situation was. So, and again, you go through that experience, and people ask you what is like playing against Rangers and scoring a goal against them, and all those emotions you go through, they remain with you for the rest of your life. So it's difficult to explain to people, but when you get into that football park, and you get to hear the fans shouting your name, and energy is unbelievable, you know, and the emotions are unexplainable. I don't know what to say, but I am very lucky one to get through those moments, and I very, very, very much thank God for choosing me.
But again, it's another struggle, Rudi. You've got to fight your way into that Celtic first team, and that's not easy. But however, the day comes on the 3rd of October, 1992. You make your debut against Dundee at Dens Park. Not only that, but you almost scored.
Yeah, well, Liam, I came here as a center back, and somehow they trained me to become a winger. So, and
Yeah, wow.
and obviously I started as a right winger, and I did very well against Dundee, and then against Partick Thistle I was fantastic. And after 2-3 games, they thought they found their winger. And they say it's Rudi, and I was trying to convince myself now I'm a right winger, because honestly Liam put me through some training methods with a guy called Rab, and he says to me that your heart need to work to beat twice faster than Europe, he says, because this is Scottish game. And I thought I was fit enough, and for about 2 weeks, honestly, I was thinking that I'm going to have some heart attack or something, because my body was going through some changes. I was shaking in the hotel room. I was on my own. I could only have a soup or some juice, some oranges. I could not eat food because my body was going through a transition. And I was thinking, what's about if I die here? Because you could feel the heart pumping in your chest. But then it's all about the love of your life. It says it's worth dying. So I was not sure if I am going to survive. I could feel the amount of pressure that was my body was going through. But then I convinced myself this is what you choose to do, and if it's meant for you to die for football, then die. What can we do? So I was prepared to die, honestly.
Yeah.
I was prepared to whatever happened. But what's happened is that the body started to, and obviously you get used to it. And then I became so fit, they choose me to play as a right winger.
Yeah.
Because I was going up and down, up and down, up. And Liam Brady was telling me, stop. I said, I cannot stop because now my lungs are big, my legs are stronger, so I can run all day. You want me to run here? I can run all day, But again, I was trying to adjust to play as a winger. And in fact, I was never a winger. And then Liam Brady left, Lou Macari took over. Lou Macari took over. Again, he saw me as a right winger. And I played for him few games, and then the fourth or fifth game I was established in the first team. I broke my arm against Kilmarnock, and who was the manager at Kilmarnock? Tommy Burns.
Yeah.
And I just broke my arm right in front of the bench of Kilmarnock, first minute. So, and then Celtic had offered me a new 2-year deal because I was doing very well. And when I broke my arm, no mention in it. So I remember we went for the Mark Hughes testimonial in Manchester. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh yeah, big away support that day.
Yeah, so I was asking Lou Mackay, I need to sign the contract. They had offered me better deal and everything because I was doing very well for Lou Macari. And I signed he says, come with us. We discussed the terms. I didn't have agent or anything. I was just happy enough to sign the contract. And obviously they were giving me better money than I had already. And I was happy because 2 years more for Celtic, that was my life. That's what I was prepared to do. And I went with a broken arm. We went to Manchester, and I remember Mark Hughes gave me the jersey after the game, actually, because I had played against him when Albania played Wales, and so. And I came back. I signed 2 years contract, went home, and when I came back for preseason, found out that Lou Macari was sacked and Tommy Burns took over.
Yeah,
and then it's start a new situation for me.
Another challenge.
From bad to worse, and then in paradise, beautiful moments. And so the story of my life,
Indeed. Let me take you back to another beautiful moment, because the Woodwork denied you the goal on your debut, but you only had a few weeks to wait. So the date then it was your fourth Celtic appearance, 2nd of December 1992, this time at Celtic Park. You came off the bench to replace Dario Stovcek.
Yeah.
And just a minute into the second half, the Daily Record match report says Slater and Payton combined and the ball broke to Vata, who hit it high into the net. So that was the three of you from your first day.
Yes, yeah. And that was when I obviously followed that action, and somehow the ball landed there, and I just put the ball into the net, and I was so emotional. I didn't know where to go, and I didn't know that thing happened to me. So you can imagine now that boy from Albania scoring for Celtic at Celtic Park against Aberdeen, who was the cup winners, cup with the Fergie. And so for me was like, again, paradise. Scoring that goal was so emotional, was so fantastic, and that those moments make you so proud, and you feel like that's a real game. That's the real connection after. That's where it starts, obviously, the real buzz, because a goal is always gives you that kind of power and self-belief. So I felt great, really fantastic. And as
Brilliant.
you say, Stuart Slater, Andy Payton, and me connected to that goal was fantastic.
And Stuart scored his first Celtic goal that
Yeah.
night too.
Yeah.
Took him a long time, but I've got a couple of friends that still swear Stuart was a great player, but unfortunately it didn't happen for him at Celtic.
Yeah, he was a great talent, and he was my closest friend, actually, to be honest. Very, very nice boy. Very, very nice boy. It didn't happen. They paid a lot of money, and Liam believed in him, and he was lots of skills on the boy, you know, but somehow it didn't work out for him here. So, but this is, I think, Celtic at the time. When you think the situation was very unstable, you could see that the club is going off balance a little bit. You could feel it. I could not understand very well things, but you could feel that was a little bit of insecurity around the club. And being a player and being a manager is, in those periods, is a big responsibility, and pressure is high, you know. And from every corner you feel the pressure. And for me, of course, I was maybe the less responsible one, because the bigger guys had big responsibility, but we had to keep fighting and keep doing what we getting paid to do, and try and make the fans happy. So was tough period, but again, life is all about going through those challenges, you know. And if Celtic had not gone through those challenges at the time, and then Fergus McCann take over, and then we won the Scottish Cup in 1995, and the sunshine started to come back, and things were getting better, and the future from then was always going to be bright. So it's like I heard here, what goes up must come down, and I always was thinking, what does it mean? You know, what goes up must come down. This is life, you know. It's a moment that the big club, even the biggest clubs in the world, they stay as much up, and then you can see Man City now, you know, after having to go through with all the money in the world, now they're starting to get this kind of downhill period, which obviously for a club of this size and with the amount of money they spend is unacceptable. But this is football.
Definitely.
Football. It's like this sometimes.
When you played for Celtic, Rudi, it's a very interesting time in history for Celtic fans, because although it was a bad time, Celtic fans of our age keep talking about it, you know. And it's interesting how, despite all the setbacks, it's still such a fascinating period, and a changing period as well. So one of the big changes from the fans' perspective is Celtic Park. But you straddled that period. The Jungle has this legendary place among Celtic fans. You were able to play in front of it. What was it like? What was it like as a player, playing in front of the old terracing?
I love the Jungle because we used to train also there, doing the sprints and the stairs and stuff. The energy of the fans jumping about was fantastic to me. It felt like it was real football stadium. Now Celtic Park is modern, comfortable, people looking for that comfort seat, you know, and even the fans want the comfort zone now, you know. They all at the time was rain, wind, snow. That was the full energy, and that was the real football for me. You know, I understand now everybody wants to be in the VIP, in the lounge, want to have, but at the time, those fans, they walking straight from the pub to the Jungle, and they were singing with their hearts, and they were enjoying so much, and that was pure. You know what means pure? Today is okay, fantastic, but it's a bit fake. It's too comfort. The fans should be jumping because you have to throw arms in the air. At the times everybody was free to to jump, to swear, to sing, to do whatever, and they were not afraid that there were somebody with a nice suit closer to you and stuff, you know. So
Yeah,
but
different.
again,
Can I share my jungle story at this time? I went to watch Celtic. I was standing in the jungle in 1990, and it was against St Mirren. I think I've relayed this story to Paul before, and it was just after the alcohol ban. And it was New Year's Day, and Celtic fans had found ever more creative ways of smuggling alcohol into the stadium. And one of the ones was this guy came in with a bag of oranges that he'd injected with vodka. And everyone was just eating the oranges, absolutely lashed.
Yeah.
And that to me is my endearing memory apart from the mayhem and the bedlam and the absolute craziness of the place. That's my one endearing memory of the jungle.
Vodka oranges, I love it.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. And one of the things that I remember about that time, Rudi, is the fact that your goals helped, but the commitment was the thing that shone through. And I think the fans saw that in you. So they started chanting your name. That must have been quite a feeling.
I used to play in a wing, and I was not used to dancing, and they were calling Rudi, Rudi, and I used to do that to them, you know, and they loved that, you know. And the manager, Liam realized that one day, and he says to me, if I see you doing that again, he said, you'd constant. But I was trying to respect the fans, you know. In the meantime, I was trying to make them happy as well, you know. So they were kind of showing that kindness to me, and I was feeling like, oh my God, those people, they love me so much. And it's a good emotion. Again, it's about getting that connection with the fans, because I believe, or everybody knows, that football without fans is not football. So
Yeah.
and Celtic have those special fans, and they pass the tradition always, and it's going to be like that forever. So this is Celtic Football Club.
And the players that the fans often feel closest to, they're the ones that get the nicknames. So when did you first aware that you had the nickname of Holy Vata?
I used to hear them, Holy Vata, Holy Vata, Holy Vata. I used to think they don't know how to spell my name, and I didn't even allowed in my communist time to talk about the holy thing, you know, because we were so. But then eventually was a friend of mine from Glasgow who wrote it down in a piece of paper, the meaning, and I translated, and then I got it. So, and I was going in different functions, and there were people treating me as if I was a really holy person. They were asking me to bless their boy or things like this.
I think it's somewhat lost in translation. I think we should write that Scottish Albanian dictionary that we talked about before we went on there.
I'll write it with Gerry for sure.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, that's the next project.
Yeah. I used to bless people, and they used to ask me, please bless my son. You know, holy, bless my son. Okay, I felt like I was blessed with that power now, you know.
So you actually took us up to this part yourself, Rudi. Season 94-95, another challenge for you at Celtic. Tommy Burns, you had the discussion with him. He tells the squad what he's looking for, but then he says to you, Rudi, I think you should go.
No, actually, we had the team meeting before he obviously he was presented to us, and he had a fantastic speech. And I had just taken the plaster from my arm, and I was going to be available after 4 or 5 weeks because the injury was so bad. I had to go through that. So after that speech he had with everybody, I was so impressed, and I went to knock to his office, and I said, Gaffa, I was so emotional, and I felt so impressed with your speech, and I can't wait to be fit and ready to show you that because when I broke my arm, I was a first team player, and I was very, very important member for Lou Macari at the time, you know. And they offered me 2 years extension, and I signed that 2 years extension. And after, as soon as Tommy Burns had that kind of speech with us, I was feeling a little bit before that, how would he feel? Because he was saying everybody will get a fair chance. Just show us how good you are and give us your all, and everybody will get the fair chance. And I went to congratulate him and to thank him for that speech, and to promise him that I'm going to do my best when I'm fit to prove him that I'm good enough for the team. And that's where I felt a bit disappointed, because as soon as I expressed my feelings and say to him I was so happy to hear that, he said, no, he says, I didn't mean it for you. He says, you are a player who were signed from Liam Braid. He says, I want to bring here my own players, to be honest. He says, so I say, Gav, I have 2 years, just signed 2 years contract. How can I leave Celtic, you know? He says, I'm going to bring my own players here, and that's it, more or less. I felt completely empty, because I really was going through that period that I was happy because I signed 2 years contract. I was unhappy because the manager who signed me, he just left, but I was hoping the new one will give me the fair chance. But at the time, I always blamed the manager, and I always thought, but with the experience and later on in life, I see that that's the way he sees things, and he wanted to build his team, and I think that he had the right, you know. At the time, I thought he was wrong. Anyway, I went to Brighton because obviously I was suggested, and Liam was willing to get me there. I stayed in Liam's house for about 10 days. Brighton, beautiful place, but I didn't have that feeling, that energy that I had here. People were cold. The place were a little bit like too posh, or I don't know. I was not finding myself there. So, and Liam was desperate to keep me there and to give me good salary and everything. But I just say no, I cannot come here. Something is not right, and I want to go back to Celtic. So I came back, and I was training with the first team, but playing with the second team. At the time, I don't know if you remember, it was no more than three subs in the bench, you know, and one had to be goalkeeper. I think there were 14 players altogether, and we were a big squad of players. So for months, I worked every day. Finishing my training, I was doing extra 2 hours in the gym, whatever, in the track, in the stadium, whatever. I was trying to kind of use my time so I can get fitter and stronger. And eventually, we had before every game we had to report at Celtic Park, and no matter who, if you be in the squad or not, you had to report there. So, and that night, I remember I went to Celtic Park. Billy Stark called me and he says, Gaffa wants to see you. He says, in the office. And I went to see him, and he looked at me straight in the eyes. He says, you know you're going to play tonight? No, I don't know. I says, but yeah, you're going to play tonight. You ready? I says, Gaffa, I'm always ready. You know, so he played me a right back. I've seen you, he says, for so many months. I don't know how many months was that he was completely ignoring me. And then he just brought me in, and we played Kilmarnock, and I done very well. And the second game was the semi-final against Hibs, which we drew, and then was the replay game. The second one we won 3-0 or 3-1. I'm not sure now.
Yeah.
And then everybody thought they found a right back here. And they says,
You were there all the time.
and Paki Boner was telling me, you saved us a lot of money because I was doing very well. And yes, I scored against Rangers and then finished the season on the high, winning the Scottish Cup. Couldn't. It started very bad, but ended up very good. So
Yeah,
it's not important how you start; it's important how you finish.
absolutely.
So that's life, you know. So, but I got used to those punches, you know.
Yeah,
And I am like those heavyweight boxers. You get down, you get up again because life will punch you as much as I don't know, but you have to be able to take the punches, you know. So the good thing for me was that I took all the punches.
and the good thing for us as Celtic supporters is that you're actually involved in some of the relatively few good moments that we had in the mid-90s. So you come back in against Kilmarnock, Tommy's view of you has completely changed from back in August. You're in the team for 6 games, so you're therefore selected to play against Rangers. We're playing our home games at Hampden. Who decided between you and John Collins? Was there any discussion who was going to take that free kick?
But look, now in that position was impossible for a right-footed player, you know.
Yeah.
So, but because I had earned the respect of the guys, Pierre Van Hooijdonk was taking the free kicks in general, you know, with his right. But somehow I told John Collins, just leave it, I'll take it. He said, you sure? Yes. So he also believed in me.
Yeah.
And these moments come, you earn the respect of the guys. Those guys were big stars of the club. They were top internationals. So was not kick that a right back or a right-footed player can take it in that position. But John Collins, he must have seen my performance. He must have seen my energy. So he totally accepted and left it to me, you know. And he said, just take it. He says, and I took it. I felt confident. I took it. I knew where I'm going to put the ball because I saw that corner, it's free there. And I saw that maybe if I take the right measurement, I can do the right calculation, I'll put the ball there. I saw it, it ended up exactly how I thought. So, and then again, what do you do after? Because you score against Rangers, you know, and that becomes reality, you know.
Yeah.
And that reality, you have to express your feelings and your energy and everything, but it's a fantastic feeling, unbelievable feeling. And then after the game, you cannot imagine how you be treated by the fans.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
That's incredible, yeah. Well, by that point, Rudi, you're part of a very exclusive club. You know, Celtic players that have scored against Rangers down the years, it really marks you apart because it matters so much to the fans.
Oh, to the fans after that, for sure, they told me you'll never be forgotten now. So, and that's the truth. So I don't know. I was not the best football player that Celtic had, but I felt like I was the best for me. Somehow out of my position.
Yeah.
To achieve what I achieved, for me, I was the best, you know, because one game I played as a center back was the game we played the testimonial of Paul McQuade, and I played against Andy Cole and Paul Scholes, and we did very well, you know. So, and I enjoyed that, and I thought maybe they will start and play me a center back, but again, I was pushed at the right back position, you know. And the funny thing with Frank Connor, I was playing striker. I was the best goal scorer with the second team. But never center back.
Yeah.
No center back, you know. But that kind of change position that helped me a lot to play because when I went to Bundesliga after, the coach, the manager of the club was one of the craziest guy, fitness fanatic. But because I had gone through those years at Celtic and my body had improved, the fitness I kind of achieved, I never had it before. So I always kept that level of fitness. And when I went to Germany, the German guy was angry because I was doing training extra after the sessions he done, because he used to take us right down to the ground. He used to kill us in training, and everybody used to have enough energy to go home, relax for a couple hours, recover, and come back again. And then he'll take the energy again. You'll kind of finish your batteries. But what I was doing extra training, and he was thinking now that he's not doing enough. So he was telling me, how come you do extra training after the training we've done today? And I says, I played in Scotland. I says, my heart used to beat twice faster than in Germany. I say, So anyway, that again, that experience was the crucial experience for the new Rudi and for the future Rudi. And so,
and we know from the book that even your time in Scotland, you were playing football games that you probably weren't supposed to be playing, five-a-side games and what have you.
Yes, I used to play five-a-sides to stay fit. I used to go in Wishaw YMCA in the gym and play with the people there, because I had so much and energy, I wanted to waste it. So I liked when I socialized with every kind of people, I didn't want just to be Celtic football player and I have to stay in my territory. I liked to socialize with working class people because obviously that's a real energy I got from the people, and I think for me, they are the most honest people for me, the working class. They tell you the truth, and simple as that. They don't have nothing to lose, So I like the real things. Gerry knows me, So So and the reason Gerry actually chose my book is not because I was a special football player, because in Scotland they see you all fantastic player. He played here, he done this and stuff. But I would imagine any top player with top qualities, if had to go through the situation I went through, I wonder if they could have made it or not, Because when I think now, I think that how did I do that? I don't even believe that I went through those situations. But what it's going on in everybody's life is you forget the tough times, because the tough times, when you go through them, you face them, but then you forget you had to go through those periods, because the good times coming and you appreciate the things you have now, But when I think how tough was, how difficult was, the probability was very, very minimum, but I done it, and I am honestly, I feel good about myself, because as I say, I never gave in any situation, and the tough times started back home with the communist system and everything, and then, but today at least we got to that level that we are so rich with memories, and my memories I'm full of memories, because all those experiences, traveling to Japan, playing to Cyprus, Scotland, Germany, France, learning all those languages, and learning about the tradition of each country and the culture. This is full of, that's the reason I told Gerry, I felt like I lived two lives, I lived two lives in one. So, because So, and that makes me very, very fulfilled. I am complete. You know, the only thing I look forward now towards the next chapter of life is to become a grandfather, hopefully one day.
No pressure there, then, guys. Listen, guys. I like the story, and I connected with the guy. You know, the connection was there right away from that very first coffee, and I think that's, you know, when you're writing somebody's life story, which is what you're doing, you have to get to know them. Like, you have to have that connection. You know, if you don't have the connection, then it's difficult to write it from an honest perspective. And this guy was completely open with me about everything. And we put it down, and I just thought the connection was there. And this is a book I would want to read. This is a story I would want to read.
Yeah,
that was critical for me, you know, but also critical for the fact was that Rudi and Francis, you know, they wanted me to write it, so it felt good.
Rudi, not Anne Francis. Anne Francis suggested me. I made the decision.
I've got to get in there. I know that.
No, because I understand that anything.
I take it, Rudi, she'll be listening to this, won't she? So I know the perils of husbandry.
She can listen. She suggested, and it's true. But I decided, Gerry. You know, because it's my book. You know, it's my story. You know, and I decide. But I am glad. Again, she's a good believer in God as well. So her angels must have sent the signal to her to tell me. So the connection is there, Gerry. You know.
There you go, sir. There you go.
So.
And you even went to Albania, Gerry?
I did. I went out in January, which I hadn't banked on it, to be honest. But the suggestion came from Rudi around about November of last year that I should go out. So I flew out in January. We had 4 days there, and I get 2 vital things. One, I got 3 complete days with Rudi, one-on-one, getting his story. That's absolutely vital because we needed to put the minutes in, as you do. But I also got to see the places I was writing about. You know, even though Albania's changed so much, I had an idea in my head of what Rudi's place looked like when he was growing up, and it turned out to be nothing like that at all. You know, the soil in the streets, the way he would talk about, we come from the soil, we return to the soil. All of these things are in. Skoda's a wonderful place. You know, I would recommend for people to go to Albania, as they will in the next 5 to 10 years. I think it's going to open up massively in that respect, and possibly be the next Croatia. But I really enjoyed it. We're hoping to go back at some point, I think, Rudi, aren't we, to try and maybe do something with the book if we can. And I'll the most important thing is, it was important for Gerry to come and visit Skoda. Of course, the place is completely transformed now. It's modernized, and it's very nice. The most important thing is that Gerry found the people very friendly, and the food very good. The weather maybe was not the best because it was that period of the year that obviously was not the summer period or spring, but he saw my street where I was born. He saw my house, and he met my mom, and we went to my football first school, where I learned the ABC of football. So it was important for Gerry to get that energy as well, to understand the past and the present. So more or less that I would imagine that helped Gerry as well to understand. We went to the stadium. I played the first official game, again transformed, because when I first played was a completely different stadium. So was a good experience. And of course, in the future, we maybe go, if we decide to promote the book in Albania, we maybe, if we find the right people, because I feel that in Albania now there is a lot of corruption, and I don't like at all the politicians who are leading the country, and I don't feel like it's the right time to promote my book with corrupted people there.
So, and I tell Gerry always that my book will be very important in my country, maybe in 50 years' time, and will be very important to educate or to motivate the young boys who later on, because right now, as I say, we don't have good politicians home, and the country is, it's, the balance is not right, you know. It's beautiful, as Gerry says, but the crime and corruption, it's quite bad. So
But
and
interestingly, if you don't mind me saying so, Rudy, we did a fantastic book night in Dublin a couple of weeks ago, courtesy of good friends Brian Murphy and Brendan Walsh. It was a tremendous night. We did it in a hotel, the Academy Plaza Hotel, and we had a Spanish girl, we had a German guy, we had a few Albanians, with this whole cross section of people coming to see Rudy because they wanted to share the story. And then the big guy and I went out just afterwards because we hadn't eaten. We wanted to get a pizza, so we get into this pizza place, and it's run by Albanians, you know. so the guys are serving, and they're sort of looking, and he starts talking in Albanian, and I just turned around to the guy and I said, "Hey, Rudi Vata," and they're like, "Rudi Vata!" They all go absolutely crazy, right? So I've always said this. I went to Dublin with Packy Bonner, and we did a few nights. But I went to Dublin with Rudi Vata, and I got a free pizza. Because they wouldn't take it. That's solid.
well, the guys will not take. The guys, he saw me, and obviously he says, "Your face, you're not Irish," he says, and I says, and I asked him, "Is he Albanian?" And then Gerry interferes, says Rudi Vata, and he shouted, so everybody there found out that Rudi Vata. And when we wanted to pay, they didn't want to take the money, so it was a great gesture from them, you know. I told them, you need the money more than us, actually, but they say no, and that's how Albanians are, you know.
Yeah, Rudy, I've got a friend called Irving who lives in Twickenham. Whenever I go there, I'd never put my hand in my pocket, not once. He won't allow it. I'm actually going to Tirana with him in February as well, so that's a trip that I'm greatly looking forward to. But there is this generosity of spirit that just pervades in Albanian culture.
Yeah, lovely people.
The Albanians they have a great heart, you know, but our main problem has been we never had good leaders, to be honest, you know. 45, 50 years under communist regime, a dictator guy who controlled his own people, that is a devil, you know. In the last 30-something years, against ex-communists converting into Democrats, which is not real, you know, because sometimes I felt like I am a communist, you know, and I have 34 years I left the country because I felt in many ways I react in a way like I got educated back home, even though I tried to correct myself, you know. But those people who's been leading the country, they are all communist school, and they still converted themselves, and they are creating so much situation for people to run away from the country. It's a beautiful country, and everybody's running away from the country because, and why people, the foreigners are coming and they are enjoying our country, and we are not able to really enjoy and appreciate our country, you know. So it's the balance is not right. Hopefully in the future the new generations of people will take over, but it's a beautiful country, it's a beautiful spirit, and the people, the normal people, are good-hearted. They will welcome you in, and they will treat you like a king with whatever they have, you know. So they say in Albania, welcome, which means book, krupel e zemër, bread, salt, and heart. That's all we have. So
Rudi, Gerry, thank you for coming on the show to talk about Rudi's life or lives, as we've expressed. It's a story documented in a brilliant book released by Pitch Publishing and available from all the places where in the modern era we source our books. Although sometimes I think it's just more fun to walk into your local independent bookshop and grab it off the shelf. Guys, it's been absolutely fantastic. What a terrific show. And it leaves me to thank again our wonderful guests, Rudi Vata and Gerry McQuade. Thank you, guys. and my
Thank you.
equally wonderful co-host, Paul McQuade. Thank you, Paul.
Thank
Been
you
a
for
pleasure, guys. Thoroughly enjoyed talking about the book, and obviously sharing time with the man himself, Rudi, is always good.
It's been amazing, guys.
being brilliant. Thank you so
Amazing.
much.
Join
Cheers.
us next
Thank-
time on Football Geeks podcast for more stories that add further vivid colour to the greatest sport on the planet. Until next time, bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.